This week on RŌL Radio, we have Jason Bender from newly opened Bender Martial Arts in Chicago. Many people would think now is not the right time to open a martial arts academy, but after hearing Jason's journey, you will understand why he thinks the time is right for him. Jason grew up under rough conditions, never having a stable home or family life, and at times having no home at all. But under circumstances that would have made most people give up on life, Jason had a unique point of view. Even as a kid, he knew that if he could endure life's challenges and hardships, he would eventually be able to come out on top. On this episode, Jason tells his story, from a rough and at times impoverished childhood to the first time he ever stepped on the mat, which just happened to be for an MMA fight, all the way to opening his very own academy. Jason's attitude of never quitting is truly inspirational. Here's RŌL Radio with the resilient, energetic, and enthusiastic Jason Bender.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we're live. Gary, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. I was a little frantic earlier today. I told you the story about not having my keys.
Hold on a second. You got to tell that story before we
You
get
think
into
so?
it. Oh,
All
so
right.
you should.
I should?
Because I was
All right.
laughing. So
I'm under the gun trying to get here on time. I can't find my house keys anywhere. And, of course, when my wife finds out, Margaret finds out that I can't find them, as she's helping me look, of course, I get the child treatment, right? I'm the third kid in the family. And it's, why don't you put them in the same place every day? Where are they? You always do this, right? You wait till the last minute, all that fun stuff.
she was right?
Of course not.
Where were the keys?
No, where were the keys? I'll tell you where the keys were. After about 10 minutes of looking for them, she reached into her front pants pocket and slowly pulled out her keys, in air quotes, which happened to look a lot like my keys. And those were, in fact, my keys, and there they were. So then I'm racing here. I get here later than I wanted to. I get all set up. I'm like, all right, let's get ready to go. And I find out that I'm actually an hour early. So that's the way my day's been going. So hopefully we can turn things around.
Well, I hope your day gets better, because this conversation, I think, is going to be pretty amazing. You know, what's amazing about this platform and these conversations that we have with different individuals is that sometimes we have the opportunity to reconnect, and this is the case today. We have Jason Bender in the house, and Jason and we've met years ago on the mat. Jason, welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you.
Good.
So we've met, what about 15, 17, 18 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah, you were one of the, it's the memories really blend together. But when I first came to Chicago, I remember you being there. I remember you being a blue belt before me, I believe. I'm quite certain of that. And I received, I started training with the team in 2001. So yeah, we're looking at what do we got?
20, almost 20. Yeah, 19,
yeah.
Yeah, and that kind of aligns with my timeline too.
Why don't you tell everybody what team this was for the people that don't know? Because I think that's super special.
Well, we had the opportunity to start our journey with Carson Gracie Sr., which we talked to Rudy Jimenez recently, and what a great memories, right? Starting with a pioneer of jiu-jitsu as a sport, right? And I'm sure we're going to dig into some of those stories, but there was so much more to Jason than jiu-jitsu. Jason, how did all this started, and where are we starting this conversation? Because honestly, I don't even know where to start. There are so many little bits and pieces and little stories here and there. Your journey of life is quite amazing. So, who are you? What brings you here today?
Well, if we want to take it all the way back, I was born in a small town in Northwest Ohio. Small town outside of Fort Wayne, Indiana is the next big city. And, the teenage parents doing their best, but, it is what it is. My dad was the oldest of 7. and his dad put his hand on his shoulder when he was, I don't know the exact age. Let's say 13, because it doesn't matter. He was 12, 13 years old, oldest of seven, and his father was like, yeah, I don't know if this dad thing's cut out for me, but you got to look out for these six other kids. And then had me at 17. So, and you can take from there. That was one of the better things I could say from my dad's stories about growing up, so, it was rough. It was a little rough at times. There were some really good times too, but, we moved around basically every single year of my life. And the parents were not meant for each other. They were, teenagers, for crying out loud. And so it was pretty rough. We at one point we left in the middle of the night and moved out for a few months to go live in another town before we moved back in with dad in my original hometown that I ended up starting kindergarten in this hometown, and then or first grade, whatever, in my hometown. We moved around to different schools 3 or 4 or 5 times, and then I ended up back in the hometown, oddly.
What was
But
the reasoning for all these moves? I mean,
well, we're poor. I mean, my dad, he was a factory worker, and if the factory went on strike, and then my parents made very poor economic decisions. Neither one of them knew how to save, and I don't want to place blame on either parent, but both of them didn't know what the hell they were doing. Let's just call it that. But there's the one story that seems to intrigue you was, I remember, we there was one point where we were doing pretty okay, and we were going to buy a nice trailer. And even as a little kid, I was like, all right, it's a nice trailer. I get it. We're going to have a nice trailer, but we're still in a trailer. I understood it's not a house, but it was still something to be excited about. It was a new place, at least. It was some place that nobody else had to have lived in, at least. All right, I was going to have my own room. It was going to be cool. My room didn't have to be like a rope off of a living room or something like that, right? And give or take, half a year later, hey, in the middle of the summer, my dad and I were riding our bikes down the road because we were just going to ride to the next town over to go see his friend who we grew up with, and I was best friends with his 3 daughters and that kind of thing. We were real good friends growing up, like siblings. So we would just ride to the next town over during the summer, and my mom pulls up and says, we can't go home. She's like, Dad's like, what? Had no idea that we had been behind 3 or 4 months, and they came and took the place. So we had to live in a garage for a summer. But as I told you, Thomas, that was one of my favorite summers. It was don't want to kiss and tell too much, but it was the first summer I held hands with a girl. And, like I said, there were 3 girls in that house. So we were crashing in the garage, but every morning I woke up and it was the summertime, and there were 3 girls in that house who all had friends. And I was the only guy in the neighborhood. And even though I was shy and I didn't know what to do, I didn't care. I was surrounded by girls at, 12 years old, whatever it was. So
silver
I've
linings,
always
right?
been, yeah. I've always been a silver lining guy. Well, you'll see that as like a theme going throughout. That like, I'm never gonna. Even as a little kid, when I knew things were garbage, I was like, man, I'm gonna get out of here. I mean, I'm gonna bite this right now. I'm gonna bite down and take this. But I mean, I think I maybe just watched just enough TV and movies to just be like, man, I can do this. I can get out of here. I can get the hell out of here and make something myself.
so hold on. Up to that point, do you realize of what's going on around you? Like, do you understand? Is there a comprehension level of saying, this is not the best part of my life. I need to get through this. This is hard times. Or
100%.
this is simply just the image around you and you don't know how to look outside, because that's another image that often happens or another situation happens to kids. They're so surrounded by their life. They don't know any better. They don't know if the grass is green on the other side.
Right. No, I definitely did. I mean, I growing up, I really did. I went through, the ebbs and flows where I felt sorry for myself a lot. I really did, where I was like, God, I wasn't ever going to be cool. I wasn't like a good looking kid. Always hand me down clothes. There's always that, never feel cooler than when you go to school the next year and a kid goes, hey, that was my shirt last year. And you're like, that sucks. That leaves a mark, no matter how much you try to toughen up, that's that's going to be a chip there you'll need later on when somebody's trying to twist your arm in a Kimura and you don't want to tap. You're going to be like, you're going to bite down on that mouth guard because of that son of a bitch right there. But 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 I knew I saw kids around me that had, I stayed at friends' houses and I was like, whoa, this is a house. Yeah, I wasn't a dumb kid. All that other kids' parents didn't yell at each other all the time. But
Yeah,
what are you gonna do?
growing up for me, we lived in apartments here. I grew up in the city, and it was one apartment to the next, and it wasn't as as poor as what you grew up with, but I definitely know those feelings of I never wanted to have people over at the house or at the apartment because all my friends had nice houses. And it
Yeah.
was like, why, no, let's hang out by you. We'll hang out by
Yeah.
you, and that's something that I've always carried, too. And the same thing about the hand-me-downs and all of that. I'm more fortunate, and I have an older brother and sister who had it a lot rougher than I did.
Mm.
But I definitely understand all those feelings that you have and how you carry that with you until adulthood.
What made you drive forward in a sense of, there's a better life out there, that right now your choices are limited, just it is what it is, you're a teen or a child, right? What keeps you going through these obstacles of life while you move, and obviously not the best situation at home, and every child wants to have great things,
Mhm.
not necessarily rich or big things, but we all want to have a room that everybody wants to have their own bed,
Mhm.
cool, whatever that is. you know what made you continue pushing forward?
I mean, it was, I don't know. I got to be, whenever some people ask me that, I think it's a mix of two things. One is just plain luck. Like I have that, whatever the it is, when people tell me that they have depression and I ask what that's like, because it doesn't make sense to me. For a while, I used to be a little judgmental of that because I was like, well, what do you mean? When I'm feeling sad, I just get up and work out, do more push up. You can't push up out depression. And I'm lucky. I was kind of born with the anti-depression. I was like, if you measured my brain, I probably have too much serotonin most of the time. Like, when I come home, my wife's always like, I know people did good things today and it was exciting. Like somebody hit a sweep today. I get it. I've been home for 5 hours with two sleeping chihuahuas. Bring it down a notch. And, but I'm genuinely excited about life. I think it's pretty freaking awesome. And mix that together with just that luck. And then also this little third element of I just absorb the hell out of pop culture growing up and now. I'm kind of addicted to it, to all kinds of any kind of art. From, you think, I walked through the Louvre with my wife and I could have I could have went there every day of our vacation to make sure I saw everything if that was possible. Then I could sit down and watch Ren and Stimpy for 2 hours straight. I all ends of the spectrum. Bring it on. If it's mildly interesting, I'll try it out. I'm not going to like it all. You try to watch a David Lynch movie and you're like, did I enjoy that? I don't know if I need to watch one of his movies because I don't know if I enjoy it in the end. But absorbing all that pop culture, you kind of you can get a little brainwashed. And luckily, I grew up in a time where I grew up on Rocky and Rambo and, Schwarzenegger. And I saw all these guys and I was like, yeah, why not? Why couldn't I? I grew up with Hulk Hogan. I was like, that's right. I'm going to eat my vitamins. I'm going to do my push-ups. It worked. If I ever meet Hulk Hogan, I know he got in trouble for some things, but I had to be like, thanks.
Helped you out.
Yeah. Mr. Rogers. I grew up, I love Mr. Rogers and Jim Henson stuff. There's always this hero's journey, like any great stories, the hero's journey. And I loved reading as a kid. I loved reading anything from comic books to, the old classics I would get through about half of, and then I'd find a way to hurry up and find the end of it, find out how Robinson Crusoe finished, but the hero's journey. And I always understood, even as a little kid, I'm like, well, it's got to suck now. It's got to. The hero always has to go through the crap, or else it's not a hero story. Like Back to the Future would have sucked if he would have figured out right away how to get back to the future.
So
That
you're
is
always,
so Go ahead, Gary.
I was just going to say, it sounds like through that you see the end game, It's not, don't get bogged down in where you're at now, because there could be something, Thomas said earlier, grass is greener, but instead of just being envious of that, it sounds like you knew it was gonna happen for you if you just were diligent about it.
What's mind blowing to me is the fact that, and we just talked to somebody else about this. It's like there's a million reasons to give up. There was a million reasons to throw a towel. I'm done. This is way too hard. I don't want to do this. And you talk about all the movies, comic books, whatever medium you were able to get your hands on. That's what was driving you forward, and not even. So correct me if I'm wrong, but not even driving you forward. We are talking about sense of survival mode. This sucks, and it's not supposed to be good. It's actually supposed to suck right now, because I'm on my way to awesomeness, or something that's better ahead of me. Am I on the right track here?
Yeah, yeah, you're right down that, right down that path. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I always was entranced by martial arts, and my hometown. I've told the story in other podcasts, so folks have listened to me on more than one, but it's a true story. My hometown didn't have a library, so we would have a bookmobile come to town, a guy in a van who would go town to town, to the small towns that didn't have a library, ask what books you want. He would go to the county library, get the books, and drop them off. And I got all the martial arts books I could, and I just, all the movies, they all knew how to fight. And there's all the Bruce Lee movies and all the Kung Fu theater movies that my dad and I watched. It was, the bad guys would be beating up the people of the town, and somehow the guy was able to train hard enough, So that's just it. And I was
So
like,
who was your hero? Who was your hero?
My hero?
Yeah.
Hero is a weird word, and I don't know. Hero was always a weird one for me, because I did grow up with religion, although my views have drastically changed. So when I grew up, hero was kind of a word you don't use even for firefighters and things. There's only one hero, and he died on a cross and all that kind of stuff. So hero for me, really, to this, just growing up, I could say inspirations, but but I've already named off quite the most of them right there.
Well, who's your favorite? Right, we can say favorite.
Who did
right?
you look up to? Yeah.
It's a tough one.
We're putting you on spot, man. This is what the show is about.
I always thought, like, if you could mix together like Robin Williams, Bon Jovi, Bruce Lee, and Hulk Hogan, then
whoa.
Hey, I'm the guest, right? I get to make up the rules. But and I kind of thought, I can't pick one.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, yeah. I just had a visual of that. I don't know. That
80s Hulk Hogan, I got to be clear.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Not NWO.
So life goes on. You're going through your teens. You have this awesome summer where girls are chasing you like there's no tomorrow. Was there one particular one you had your eyes on, or
the one that held hands with me? That was the.
Oh, is it? That was a prerequisite.
I've never
Interesting.
Be able to be picky in life.
Interesting.
Luckily, luckily I found a pretty one that likes me. So.
Good for you.
So from this point on, does life get better, or where is this going?
It gets more interesting.
Okay.
So teenage years. So we'll give a quick rundown. So after we left my dad once and that kind of thing, he had found his long lost dad, that kind of thing, and they were all going to church. So my mom had grew up with the church, so her family, that's one of the reasons why she never got the divorce and all that stuff. So we moved back in with him. I hated it. I absolutely hated it. I didn't want to be around him. I didn't want to be a part of it. I just wanted to go back to the other town. And so as soon as we got there, I met, we were doing the church thing, and I was like, this is cool. It seemed like the right thing to do. It seemed like the good guy thing to do. So I believed in the church, and I would hang out with the adults during Bible study. And I didn't know anybody. Like I said, I was moving back to the hometown that I left in 4th grade. So if you're gone from 5th grade until 8th grade, forget about it. Like you're a new kid again. Like it doesn't matter, whatever. Luckily, there was one friend, and I'm still friends with him to this day. Luckily, I had him to hang out with and make my way back in. But during this adult Bible study, I'll never forget that one of the deacons of the church, and I have this story on my website and everything. He pointed me to his son's football achievements, and then he pointed to the picture of his son, and he's like, his son was like 5'8", 165 in high school, and in Ohio, to get any kind of recognition for football, pretty amazing. And I was like, wow, a guy who's like barely bigger than me, like, and he's like, yeah, play football. So I played football, wasn't any good at all. But luckily my school was so small, I had to start. It was great. So, so I just really got into powerlifting too, and I got pretty strong. So even though I wasn't great at football, they threw me on the line. I was a 175-pound lineman. And
What?
I found out, yeah.
I don't know anything about football, but that just does not sound right.
No, even in small town Ohio, other guys were like 200 pounds. Like, real story, guys would walk up to the line because you see on a sheet who you're going to be across from, and they would see my name and they would see how much I weigh. And even at lying to say I'm 175 pounds when I walk around at 170, whatever, they were still like, bring this little guy on. They were just all weak, chomping at the bit. What they didn't know is I learned very quickly that bigger guys don't like to be hit at all. I was willing to get a personal foul within the first 30 seconds to make the rest of my night easier. So like I would right away just come at this guy like a badger. I would just do whatever I could. I mean, I got a personal foul on my first play in varsity because I headbutted my own cousin because he was across from me. And I was like, and I just headbutted him, and the referee threw the flags, and the team's yelling at me, but I'm looking at my cousin. I'm going, whose night is going to be longer? You got to give him the crazy eyes. And, I don't remember how it went, but I didn't know what else to do.
Gave it a shot.
I didn't know what else to do. I knew
that creates interesting family dynamic.
Never talked to the guy before or after. Who cares?
Yeah, I got cousins like that.
Yeah, whatever. So anyway, so I played football throughout high school, and then both folks at separate times left for separate reasons. So around my junior year, if I remember correctly, I was by myself, working at McDonald's, and that's all I was doing. It was just going to school.
Hold on. Define by yourself. What do you mean by that? I mean, you're 16, 17. Where do you live?
We lived in a trailer, and it took me, this is God's honest truth. It sounds crazy, but even still to this day, every great once in a while, I'll have like these nightmares about this old trailer because it was so like anybody could just walk up and open up the door. There was no way to lock the door. The both back doors, the windows, it was shoddy. There was no heat in the winter. We had to have a kerosene heater inside of a tin box. It was in the wintertime, the pipes would freeze all the time. It was terrible. But it was mine. And I started to like take care of it a little better at least. But yeah, that's where I was living. But I was doing fine. I was like happier than I've ever been. Again, I was like, both of the things that were making me not happy were gone. So
you're referring to your parents?
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember one time when I was feeling like a big shot. I'm paying my own bills. I was very proud of paying my own bills and going to school. And I was a good kid. I went to church on my own. I drove myself to church. I would, and I was good. I never drank. I was good. And then I remember one night, all of a sudden, a neighbor started playing country music really loudly, and it's not much that makes me mad, but like country music kind of does it pretty quickly, especially when I was younger. It made me so mad. I thought, and still to this day, think that pop country music is an abomination to this planet. And so I went over next door and I started pounding on this guy's door. And in a trailer, if you knock at all, you're shaking all the walls, right? So I boom, boom, boom. He opens up the door and he goes, "What's up? How are you?" I'm like, "I'm your neighbor and you're just cranking the music up too loud." And immediately he's like, "I'm sorry. I had no idea we could hear." And he turned it down. "I'm sorry, young man." And I'm like, now I'm a jerk. But yeah, then right after high school, I went to the Marine Corps Reserves with my best friend at the time, and right away married my high school sweetheart. Right away decided both of those things were terrible ideas. got an annulment within like 9 months. And then the Marine Corps Reserves, after I went to boot camp and infantry training, I was like, this isn't for me. I don't like the idea of they don't let it be a secret that you're a part of the military industrial complex. Literally, when you have, corporals talking about like, we don't need to know why we kill, we just kill. And I'm like, ugh, I don't like that idea. I might get my leg blown off for business. I didn't like it. So I was honest with them at the Wright Pat Air Force Base, where the Marine Corps Reserve unit was based out of. And I told them, I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this. And they're like, really? And I'm like, I'm just not being honest. I said, this isn't, I have a lot going against this. And the Marine Corps is so tight that I think if I have any doubt, I shouldn't be a part of it. And they were really cool. But actually, they were like, okay. I was one weekend a month during Clinton's time. Whatever. We weren't in battle anyway. So immediately, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was about to ask, so what happens next? I'm trying to catch up with you. This story just bounces off walls. And
it was a crazy time. So my 20s were really crazy. So then I met a girl right as I got divorced. Like I said, I didn't drink, but like, my friends were like, come on, it's Halloween. You just got divorced and you're 19 years old. You're going to drink. And I met a girl that like right away. And she was like, you need to go to college. And I'm like, what? No way. I'm not smart enough to go to college. She's like, there's people teaching at colleges that aren't that smart. You'll be fine. You go to college. And I'm like, all right. So I start dating this girl, date her for the next 5 years or so while going to college at Bowling Green State University. And I went there to be a teacher. And during that time, I was working at a convenience store, delivering newspapers at like 4. I would wake up at like 4 in the morning, go deliver newspapers around the town, 3 different kinds. And then I would also, as much as possible, I was training Muay Thai and jiu-jitsu and wrestling. So at Muay Thai, I was with a guy who, if I remember correctly, he's an HVAC guy out of Northwest Ohio, but to this day, a phenomenal coach, just like a calm guy. But by the end of it, it's still to this day some of the hardest workouts I've ever done in my life. And it's just above a barber shop in Fremont, Ohio. This guy was brutal, great technique and everything. Mr. Hess, much respect. And then I was fighting MMA like on and off at these small events outside.
This is while you're going to school?
Yeah. So like, so I would train and work, and I was young and I had the energy. I have the, I'm still energetic at 42. Imagine what I was like in my 20s. I was ready to go. So then at about 3 years in, my girlfriend at the time got accepted to UIC for grad school. So when she's like, let's go visit Chicago, I was like, I know where I'm going, because I had heard on, what was it called back in the day? Submissionfighting.com. Is that what MMA.tv used to be before? Yeah, OG back in the day. I used to be on there.
Now you brought some memories back.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Gary doesn't even know what that means.
No, I have no idea.
He has no idea.
No idea. So for those kids out there, MMA.tv that you see on the ring post in the UFC, one of the biggest forums for mixed martial arts and everything, is a forum where we used to be able to talk about and trade fight tapes and instructionals and things like that. I got the Mark Kerr instructionals and had Don Fry instructionals and stuff like that. That's where I first heard of Ryan Hall. I was like, who is this guy with 100 triangle wins?
So that brings you to Chicago then?
School. So yeah, we visit Chicago, and I dropped out of college. Yeah, I didn't care about the Sears Tower. I'm afraid of heights. I didn't.
Hold on. So how does the decision to drop out of college? Because first, moments ago, you talk about you need to go to college. People teach. This is your profession. You clearly put a lot of effort into this, delivering newspapers, working, doing everything, plus training. In wherever you are in Ohio, clearly there's effort to make this work, and there's passion driving all of this. And then you just flip. You say, I'm moving to Chicago because my girlfriend moves to Chicago. So you just drop off?
Yeah, I did. Well, there's another factor in there that I'm leaving out. I started to get into, so I was a teetotaler in high school. Well, in college, I started to have some fun. And Chicago was really fun in the late 90s. It was really easy to stay up till 5 a.m, 2 days in a row. It was very easy to do that. And so going from college and, to throw in with Hulk Hogan, I also really love bands like Motley Crue, who like were notorious for being partiers. And part of me, when I was that good boy, was always really jealous of those guys. But I was always like, yeah, but they always die and go to rehab, so I stayed away. And then one night I got hammered, and I was like, oh, this is pretty fun. And then the next day I was fine, and so I was like, we can do that again, right? It doesn't affect anything. And it didn't for a long time. I mean, I don't want to say it didn't, but it didn't really affect my life that badly. I was in my, like I said, I was in my 20s. I could go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 5 and be sober and fine and do everything, right? But that stuff catches up to you. So the allure of not only the part of me that wanted to train martial arts in Chicago, or it's just someplace big, and get the hell out of Ohio, really, and was also drawn by this party side too. So it was more than just the martial arts and everything. It was also it was the devil and the angel on my shoulder. Both of them were like, go.
How hard was that? Bouncing
Well,
between those two worlds of partying and fun and obviously the good side, the good guy, or the martial arts, and the passion that you have in life.
well, it starts off easy. You do because you don't do it very often. You really special occasion it, right? So even throughout college, throughout the beginning of college, I was very serious. I was like, nope, not gonna drink at all until the semester's over. Semester's over, tie one on, you deserve it, cool. Do that for the first year or two, year 3, all of a sudden you're like, well, and then it becomes like an every weekend thing, So it happens very gradually. Is how it happens, And it just catches up to you to where next thing you know, you're like, it's Saturday, and if you don't have a drink in your hand, you're wondering what's going on. I luckily never became like anything more than a social drinker. My point of drinking and having fun and partying was to be around other people and have the most fun, and like sit down with Thomas and you know do some kind of drug that'll make us stay awake until 4 a.m. and talk about where you come from and what we're going to do with our lives, and yeah, but that's why I'm 9 years sober now. I haven't touched anything in it'll be 9 years here in a couple weeks.
So in which point of your life you realize this is not the path that you want to follow, and you make these corrections? Or I guess my question is, have you noticed that, or there was other factors kind of helping you with notice this is not the path you want to take?
Well, for sure. When it starts to affect the things that you care about, the first time you cancel a client because you're hungover or still drunk, it's a really crappy feeling.
That happened?
Oh, it happened several times, unfortunately throughout a couple years. Yeah.
How do you have that conversation with a client?
Well, you lie your ass off, and then you feel like shit about lying, and then it just piles on there. And then the only way to not feel shit about lying is make it through until Saturday, and then you can party on Saturday. So it becomes this vicious cycle.
It sounds like a vortex of a very difficult time.
Again, it was all self-inflicted, and it's ridiculous to think that someone who grew up watching, people drink themselves into oblivion, that I would have learned my lesson, and watching the rock stars and everything. But man, it can catch up to you pretty quickly. I'm super, again, sometimes I hate the word luck. I really do. I hate it because I feel like we make our own fortune most of the time. But come on, I had no choice to be born when I'm born, in the body I'm born, and things like that. But I'm glad I wasn't born, or did I have a liking for downers? These kids now that take Oxycontin. Luckily, I never liked to go down. I was like an up guy. I wanted to have fun, but I could understand very easily how somebody could take one of those things and say, "Oh, this numbs everything," and just sink in. It's easy.
At which point you quote unquote wake up, or what happens to cause for you to say, I need to stop this. I'm losing clients. This is impacting other people. This is not where I want to do, where I want to be. And how do you make that change?
Well, so I met my wife, what are we looking at, like 15 years ago or something like that, right? And, not to give her story away, but she's battled the same demons too. So when we met each other, we were party friends, and that was great for a while. Boy, did we have a whole lot of fun for a few years because we both liked to party and it was fun. But then it really, there was a point where I wanted to stop, and I had made the decision. And not to put too much of our story out there, but it was an issue for a moment, and I don't want to throw her under the bus at all or anything. Just this is our journey. And there was a point where, like I said, a client would say, hey, I like you better when you're sober or something like that. It's like,
No
that
kidding,
stings.
yeah.
And yeah, that was terrible. And then this is I'm going to try to say this without crying, but if I do, I do. I'll never forget that during my purple belt ceremony with Natasha Suris, I think is how you pronounce her name. Haven't talked to her in a long time. She worked at FFC as a fitness manager. And for my purple belt, for when I was being awarded my purple belt, I almost missed it because I was so hungover and feeling so crappy. I get migraine headaches too, which is great to add on, alcohol or whatever. So my hangovers turned into migraines. So that actually helped me because I was like, I can't do this. But I'll never forget Natasha leaning over when we were lining up, and she leaned over and goes, "You smell like booze." Talk about just like, never forget it. If I ever see her again, which I hope I do, she was always nice. I got to be like, hey, thanks. It took a couple years later, but that was really a foot in the door of stopping drinking altogether.
That's something that stuck with you, I'm sure. We've talked to other people who have had similar stories, and sometimes there's a catastrophic incident, and sometimes it's a slow burn that gets them there. But if they come through on the other side, there's always something like that. There's that gets them motivated to come out the other side. And I know that definitely, I think those type of embarrassments almost are more impactful than, say, you fell down and broke your arm, or you got a DUI.
Yeah.
It's that embarrassment, I think, and it's and you're disappointing somebody else too. Do you think that's really what it was? It was that embarrassment factor?
For sure.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there was a bottom? Do you think there was that was the low of the life? Was that the core or the structure for you to start building a new life to where you are today?
For sure. That was, I mean, the funny thing is not to sound arrogant, whatever, but Angie and I, we were rock stars when we were screwing up. So like you said, the sentence, I lost clients because of this. I never lost a client because either A, I would kind of fib through it, or B, I was straight up honest. Some clients I was straight up honest with, and I was just like, look, hey, I shouldn't have done this. I'm sorry. I'm kind of struggling with this. I'm sorry. I'm working on this and I failed. And they were just like, hey, you're human. You're working on it. It's all it can be, and I tried to never be anything that I wasn't. So, and when I do my job, I bring the heat, man. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm the best trainer in the world. I'm never, ever going to say those words because, boy, you just go on YouTube and you can find 1,000 people who are level 10 trainers, just perfect. You can't criticize them for darn near anything unless you're like, I don't like the sound of his voice. But there's so many good ones out there. But I'm telling you, when I come at you with when I'm coaching, it be fitness, Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, I'm trying to be the best that there is, absolutely, and I'm trying to make it. And my main thing is to make everybody's journey as if they are me and I'm trying to train them. Because I'm one of those hippies that kind of believes that you are me, we are each other, we're all part of God, we are God. So if I'm helping you and I'm looking at it through my eyes, through you, does that make sense? I'm just trying to say, like, for example, jiu-jitsu. When I have somebody come and I'm training them, like I wish I knew guard retention first. So like I wish somebody would have told me, hey, as soon as you grab the inside of their pants, you need to put lassos on their shoulders. Don't worry about getting your grips. Because if you worry about getting your grips, they're just going to throw your legs aside. They're going to toriando you, right? But just throw your feet on their shoulders right away. You have time to think. Then you can grip. Oh, So I have people drill like that. And I try to do that with fitness too, where I'm trying to like, well, how, if I could build somebody from clay in fitness, what would I do? How would I really build that person? How would I want to build like a video game character? What attributes would I want them to have? I'd want them to be pretty balanced, not just balanced, but I try to make almost everything a 10, right? Just the way I look at it.
Interesting that you have this drive for perfection, if you will. At least that's what I'm hearing. Everything needs to be pretty near to ideal, especially when it comes to your clients. And that brutal honesty, that I think that's what, Gary, that's what strikes me the most. I mean, a lot of people, like as I'm looking holistically at this entire story, there's a million reasons to give up. Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure that most people would. And Jason continues pounding and plowing through it. And then that brutal honesty with his clients. Yeah, this is hard. I'm struggling with this. That doesn't mean I'm not good at it. I'm still continue driving. I'm still continue doing this. And people stick around. So there's something behind all of this. So you're in Chicago. You're doing jiu-jitsu. Clearly, there are some strong struggles, right, throughout all of this. You mentioned your purple belt ceremony. I mean, that's a big one, right? I mean, achieving purple belt in jiu-jitsu, that's huge achievement, especially 15 years ago. I mean, that's huge at that point, right? And then from Carson Gracie, that's another layer.
At that time, right?
I'm sorry, say again?
Yeah, in the same line, the people getting the brown belts at the same time. I think right around that same time, you had Jay Valco and Jason Sullins and yourself and guys like that were all in the front row as the brown belt. Now all of those people are in charge of these amazing schools. Yeah, it was a tough room.
It definitely was a tough room. We got some stories there.
Stephan Bonnar.
Oh, Stephan. I do remember that. Now we're going to sidetrack into Stephan Bonnar training. Were you there when he was getting ready for Tough One?
Yeah.
For the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah. Him and
I remember those days.
Yeah.
It was a
I remember when they would have when Senior would have us line up and open hands.
And open hand slaps. Man.
Open hand slaps
guys
where?
Would go in like this.
Oh, hold on. Gary doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't know these stories.
Let's
do this. Let's do this. Open hand slap where? In the face?
So first of all, Jason, anyway, I want you to tell your story here, but the way how this looked from my side, we had no idea what he was getting ready for. We knew it was something big, but we had no idea what it was for because nobody wanted to say, they couldn't say anything. All we know is that, right. All we know is that Carson Gracie Sr. tells Stephan to lay down on the ground and we all circle around him, about 10, 12 guys, I don't know. And then you come in front of him in an open guard position and your job was to open hand slap him. And if you missed, in his head, not anywhere. I mean, you were slapping him. And if you missed, Carson Sr., he was yelling at you.
That's a different era.
Jason, what?
Yeah, well, the funny thing, I'll never forget. There were guys that would go up and be like, and there was, because Stephan's a likable guy. He's very, very likable. And, the guys were like going like this. Yeah. I came in and I'm like, that's not what's going to make him better. First of all, I fought on the same card as Forrest Griffin when Forrest Griffin fought Dan Severn. True story.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Geez.
And Forrest, yeah. Forrest and I stood in line to get paychecks. And he made a little joke to me because, I'm a little dude and he made a joke. And, so I knew he was fighting a tough dude. I knew of Forrest Griffin for a while. And I'm like, man, Forrest isn't going to patty cake this guy. So I came in and I'll never forget that. Like, I remember, Stephan's like, oh, okay, I got to really defend with this guy. Cause I tried to bring that open palm down. I tried to bust his head open. I mean, of course I didn't because Stephan's really good, but yeah, I tried.
It was a different time back then, man. You just brought some memories, man, in my head. What an awesome thing. So all this is unfolding. All this is happening. You training jiu-jitsu. Obviously, your personal training is continuing growing while all of this. You couple years prior to that, you quit. You leave teaching opportunity or leaving school to become a teacher. You move to Chicago. All of this is unfolding, and then what happens between then and now?
I'm sure a lot,
So
right?
in there was, well, that was when the drinking, in that time, was when I was working to build clients, and then the drinking habit was like, so both were going up. Like my personal training business was going up, and then, you know, the partying was getting a little crazier at the, you know, it was both were boom, 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 boom. And then in that time, I met my wife, and then, like I said, you know, that 9 years ago there is when we quit. And so from there, obviously, if you take this one away, this one really takes off, right?
Yeah.
So when senior passed, that was a period where, uh, that was the period where we were kind of drinking a lot and stuff. So I was working at, then when we stopped, I started working at Conviction, where Andre Magees, who I met at Fitness Formula Club when he first moved to Chicago,
Mhm.
I found out he was there, and then I got along with the owner, so I just took all my personal training business over there, and I trained under Magees. We trained at that place for quite a few years, like I don't know what, so it was like 3 or 4 or something like that. And it was a really good cruise. We had a lot of new folks. You know, I was one of the higher ranks there, under Andre, and there's some good things about, some good energy about having young folks in there that are cool young people, and we worked hard. Some guys I'm still friends with to this day are, some of those Conviction guys, guys and gals there. And then when Conviction closed, the owner being, just showing up one day and locking the doors and stuff, and taking everybody's membership money, um, I moved all my business to Cheetah in Andersonville, and then things were going great there pre-COVID. Like, it was, my biggest problem in life there was the owner of Cheetah flat out sat me down and said, Jason, we're not going to be a jiu-jitsu school. You have outgrown the space I am willing to rent to you. That's it. And I go, really? And I tried like for months. I was like, I'm going to call her bluff. And I'm just going to, one day, I'm just going to outgrow this space. And like, she's going to be like, fine, I'm going to rent you the whole exercise room. And right around that time when the boss and I were really at a head on that, where she was like, I'm not a jiu-jitsu school. I don't care how much money you make us. We're not a jiu-jitsu school. I'm not going to rent you that space. COVID hit. And that's where I was at, where things were at the best in my life and things were going great, and COVID hit. Well, I had this mix of freaking out and being completely taken aback. So I'm like, I teach cuddling, you know, this sucks. We can't touch each other. This is, what are we going to do? This is my dream. It's the martial art I picked is the closest martial art of them all. What am I going to do? So I just kept, I hopped on Zoom immediately. Luckily, somebody told me about it. And I've been charging $5 a class. And every day at 7 a.m., I hop on and I have 10 to 20 people that will log in. A lot of them are everyday people. Like, they're like, this is what I do every day now. I got some people on the East Coast. I have a couple in Scotland that trains with me. It's 3 p.m. there when they take the live class. And then I was doing that. And luckily, that kept my mood up, because, boy, that was a big drop. I understand how when an athlete or a fighter retires, how they go from way up here to way down, how that's such a bummer, because that's kind of where I was, where 7 days a week I was booked out at the gym. And my biggest problem was, man, I think I've outgrown this gym. You know, that was my big thing. What am I going to do? How do I make that transition? And I was listening to, and the good thing was I was busy. So I was taking my time. I was listening to books on business and podcasts, and I was messaging people like Mark Vivas and Scott Gabe, who owns Fit to Defend out in, is that Libertyville out there?
Yeah, Libertyville. Yep.
He said, what a good guy. Him and I had a super fight, if you want to call it that, right? Where we competed against each other. And the guy, a couple months later, I say, hey, I think I'm going to open up my own space. He's like, let me know when you're available. He talked to me for like probably an hour. He gave me an hour of his time just to give me all the advice that he would give a martial arts business owner. But then when COVID hit, I'm like, what am I going to do? So one, that just gave me time, actually gave me time to look at places. Whereas before, working 7 days a week, I didn't have time to look at spaces. So I looked at some spaces and I'm like, well, let's just wait, you know, just let realtors know when COVID's over, I'm going to open up a space. Well, and then my wife applied to me for an SBA, one of those small business loans. I got approved for one, and then a perfect space opened up. A perfect space. I mean, this place is exactly in the location I need it to be. It is brand new, brand new. The layout is perfect. It's a big rectangle of a room with high ceilings, and I can do whatever I want in there, right? So I had to jump on it. The price is right. That's the big thing. It's a small space, you know. When COVID, when we won't have COVID, I'll be able to fit probably, you know, like 16 people on the mats, you know, going maybe 12 to 16. I don't know. I'd have to see. But during COVID time, I first week of classes, yesterday and today were my first two, or this morning was my first morning jiu-jitsu class. It's booked out. I'm not going to allow any other people other than these 6 people until one of these 6 people tell me that they can't be in. We're going to keep it spaced, and we're going to stick with that partner. So if your partner's not there, you're going to have to do solo drills on the bag, you know. So you and your partner got to keep each other in check. So we're relying on each other. And luckily, we were a tight crew before. My crew at Cheetah was a really interesting crew because, you know, I always felt out of place at fitness facilities, always, because I don't really like working out anymore. I used to like lifting weights when I was in high school, but now I don't really enjoy it. All I enjoy is jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai and stuff, but mostly jiu-jitsu. Muay Thai hurts. I still love it. But when I was at gyms, like when I worked for a Bally's, I worked for a Crunch, I was always like, man, I'm just not like these people. I don't care how big my biceps get. I want to be able to last longer during jiu-jitsu. I want to be able to kick harder, whatever that goal is. I'm not like these people that care so much about the way they look. And that's fine if you're driven by, you know, that's the thing I hate the most about the fitness industry personally, is this desire to everything is about, all right, we got to do this for your core. And, you know, what are you even talking about? You know, we're doing this to be fit. And if you end up looking good in the end, that's probably because you ate right. You know, it's probably not even the working out that you did. It's probably because you ate right. Good job. But as a fitness instructor, to talk about how a person looks when they do the workout, you're really putting a bad mindset in my opinion. So I always felt out of place, always had. So now when I had this opportunity to jump and get my own place and say, all right, now I can finally, for the first time in my life, feel at home. I'm willing to take that risk during a pandemic. Bring it on, and let's go.
But
I'm
I'll
not
tell you,
scared.
Jason, I'll tell you, I mean,
but I'm not scared.
from a business perspective, some might say this is the worst decision that you can possibly make.
Maybe.
One,
We'll find out.
you're going from a large client base, and you shrinking that substantially. Plus, you have this circumstance completely out of your control, which is COVID, right? Why in the world? I got to ask this because, you know, I'm a business junkie. You know, I love doing this. I love talking to people about the decisions they make and how they structure things. And why in the world would you open a jiu-jitsu academy? Out of all things, jiu-jitsu academy in the middle of COVID.
Well, like I said, a couple of things. I don't think the risk is that big. I don't need to let folks know what my bills are, but it's not that crazy. The rent is good where I'm at. Let's put it that way. And I don't need to make money. I don't do anything but eat and watch TV with my wife. You know, I don't care to, like, I like I used to save up for a vacation. You know, like I've been to Brazil 3 times now. I did 2 camps down there. With Carlson Jr. would hold a camp with Ari Gallo.
Now we got to do
And I stay
episode
in a
2.
hostel. I've done.
There's Brazil stories. Oh my.
So yeah, so I got to do that because I would save because, you know, I don't need to do anything else. The only other thing that used to take my money, I quit that years ago. So now if I don't eat it, I don't consume it. I don't buy it. So as long as I make enough money to take care of my wife and my 2 chihuahuas, I don't need to make money right now. And if I can make it right now, if I can make this work right now, then this is only going to be my starter gym anyway. You know, this is going to be, if I can make it now, and I think I can do it smartly. And the people that I am, you know, not to use the word grooming, it's just a weird word, but the folks that are going to they're going to be in a room with me, these 6 people, you know, since they're going to keep each other accountable and they're serious about it, boy, they're gonna get really good. I'm gonna train them like I said, they're gonna do all the things that I wish I did at the beginning. Work great guard retention. We're gonna work specific series and all these, and I'm gonna make them good. They're gonna come out of this awesome. Now, when we come out of this and we have a vaccine, hopefully, 2021 time, then I'm gonna have a group of people I'm gonna have 6 to 10 people there that went from white to blue belt like that because they got individual attention and we got to hang out a lot. So that's where I'm at. I'm excited for it. And also, I also get to, because I also teach fitness there too, and fitness you can space out and things like that. So I'll be able to make some of my bills off of work the fitness part, and then the Zoom classes are doing well. So it'll be all right.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I mean, building a business is a building blocks, one after the other, layering things on top of each other, and really relying on the success and being strategically smart about what you do and how you do it. Maybe this is not the perfect time, textbook wise, but I think you're doing some cool things, and I think I'm gonna be pulling for you, man. I'm gonna be watching you. You're right in the area, and I'm sure we're gonna hear more and more about you. Gary, what do you think? I mean, this is mind-blowing stories, and we didn't even touch probably half of this. I mean, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think we've got a long way to go in a short time to get there. But we make notes during these conversations, and a couple things that I made notes about was constantly pushing forward, fortitude, the hero's journey. He talked about luck in the beginning, right? Even though his circumstances weren't great, he was always lucky. And he said it again here when he was talking about opening his gym. He got the loan. He was lucky. If they did not apply for that loan, they wouldn't have got it, right? So the luck and the opportunity are the things that he's made happen for himself. And it sounds like he's been doing it since he was a little kid. And for that, I just think that, of course, we're going to be pulling for him, and we'll keep an eye out and an ear out. But I think this is all, like you said, it's not textbook time for this, but it sounds like somebody's got his act together, and he knows what he's doing and how he's going to get there. And I think he'll be fine on the other side of it. We've talked to a lot of people who I feel the same way about, because they've made these opportunities at this unfortunate time. And we know a lot of people that I've said this multiple times. They shut the lights off and they went home. And Jason didn't do that. So congratulations, and I commend you on all that stuff.
Yeah, my head goes off to you, Jason. Before we wrap this up, Jason, we do this little game at the end of every episode. We have 5 questions for you, and we use the same 5 questions every single person. We didn't tell you this. We put everybody on the spot, okay? Some of those questions are more serious, some of them are very silly. But what we want you to do is first thing that comes to your mind, very short, and the first thing that comes to your mind. Gary will take it off right now with you. Let's have a little fun with this.
All right. Number 1, what was it like the first time you stepped on the mat?
The first time what? I'm sorry?
You stepped on the mat.
Stepped on the mat?
Yeah.
Well, what do we consider stepped on the mat? Because I had my first MMA fight before I trained, really. So that's
all right.
Let's talk about that.
Right
Why? How come you didn't mention this? Oh my!
All right, first MMA fight. What was it like?
It didn't come up. So at the time, I had there was a martial arts instructor who was in the town next door, and I didn't see eye to eye with this fella, and it was very karate, old school karate stuff based and everything. This was when the UFC was first coming out, and it was right after I got out of high school, and he asked my friend, he's like, hey, ask Bender if he wants to be in an MMA fight. And it was in an old gutted out mall in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I was like, sure, let's do this. The only training I had was we tried to pause the UFC. We were doing that anyway, but trying to pause the leg locks, the chokes, and all this stuff. And we had thrown boxing gloves on in high school. I took 6 months of Taekwondo when I was a kid. That's it. And then the books I read, and shadow boxing in my trailer, like how much you better be able to move your head a lot. You're in a box. So I go out. I start this fight comes out. First of all, I don't even have fight shorts. I've told the story before, so it's out there. I didn't have any fight shorts, so I wore jean shorts because, hey, Stone Cold Steve Austin did it. So I go out, and the guy's in Muay Thai shorts, 6 foot tall, bald dude. His name's Tony Ross. Who is Tony Ross? Ross trained with Jason Godsey and Chris Lytle at
no way.
in Indianapolis. UFC
Man.
legend Chris Lytle. So this guy was a training partner of him and like Ian Freeman. This guy was a training partner of that, and I'm like, this guy looks scary. My first thought was like, I stepped in the ring and I ducked under the ropes and I was like, okay, don't fall on your face. And then I look over, I'm like, the guy's bald, goatee, Muay Thai shorts bouncing around. I'm like, looked at my buddy and I go, this guy looks like he's serious. He's like, yeah. He goes, go punch him in the face. I'm like, all right. I punched him in the face a few times. I came out with probably the worst. The only reason I caught him, I'm sure, is because I just came out like, it's harder to train, harder to roll against a white belt sometimes than a blue belt, right?
Yeah.
And they popped his nose, and the referee stopped it. And so I jumped up on the turnbuckle, going like this. Referee comes over, pats me on the back, and goes, "We shoved the tampon up his nose. Let's go round 2." And I'm like, I don't have anything left. So we went to the ground a little bit, but when we stood back up, he hit me, and I turned around, and that was my first MMA fight. I was like, this is it, man.
Unbelievable.
This is effing it.
What a story. Oh my God. I can't believe you went out there.
Sorry, I know you said short answer, but there's not a short answer.
That's a good one though. That's a good one. That's the best one we've had so far. So even though it was a little longer, that's perfect. That's no problem. Most rewarding achievement.
I mean, right now it's gonna be opening up this school, but then of course there's of course the earning a black belt, sticking it out for 16 years to get a black belt, being able to have a home, like I've lived in this home now for, what are we looking at, 10, 15 years or something like that, because, like my wife and I got a mortgage. This is our home. So that's a pretty big achievement when you're bouncing around as a kid.
Sure.
So.
Sure. Have you ever been doing it 16 years now? Have you ever wanted to quit?
I've never wanted to quit. No, it took me 16 years to get my black belt.
Right.
I'm going to get my first degree in a couple weeks, actually. So I've been doing it, looking at 16, 17, 18, 19 years now. I've never, ever wanted to quit. If anything, I knew if I wanted it, if I suck, which I sucked a lot, and at every belt rank I struggled, every single one. I was never the killer on the mat. Like, I always had to continue to struggle. That I was like, just got to put in more time. Just got to put in more time. Just got to put in more time.
Beautiful. Describe what it was like when you received your black belt.
Be short here. One sentence. What was the feeling like? Emotions.
Yeah, just the emotions.
This is what we're looking for.
I'm a crier. I'm a crier. Always have been. Always will be. I made it through this one without. I was really close for a minute there, but I didn't. But yeah, I cried in Junior's arms, and luckily a friend of mine caught it on video, because if there's ever a time I need a quick serotonin boost, I can watch that video, and it was pretty amazing. I wasn't expecting that many people to be as excited as I was. Let's put it that way.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. I love
Good for
it.
you.
All right, and now here's the most controversial question of them all. Do you wash your belt?
Well, I used to not at all. I was just like, no, that's BS. And then as I started talking to other people, I was like, I would wash it occasionally. Like, if I thought, I'm like, man, we just did judo camp, and there was like, I was with like 40 people or something like that, or some kind of camp. It starts to get a little funky, and because I try to air the belt out, things like that. And now I wash it more. So yeah, that's where I'm at on the belt washing.
All right.
I tell you, it's always interesting
beautiful.
to hear what people respond to that one.
So I'm keeping.
I like Carlson Jr.'s answer. Carlson Jr.'s answer was, I don't wash my belt because then it will wear out sooner.
Right, I heard
don't
that.
want my belt to get worn out sooner by a machine, right?
Yeah. I heard that answer. That was awesome. Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna put you down for a
that's
yes.
a great answer.
I'm gonna put you down.
Gary
for a
keeps
yes.
tally of this. Okay, he's on a mission to prove something. I don't know what he's proving, but he's proving something here. Okay.
I don't know. Well, I'm really hoping that COVID doesn't sway this one way or the other. But we've only done it 4 times. We're at 50-50 right now. 2 yes, 2 no. So there we have it.
Jason, beautiful story. I gotta tell you, I'm not only pulling for you with your new business venture, with the academy, with everything you're doing in your life, but my hat goes off to you for everything that you've done in your life, from your childhood all the way through your teenage years, and the obstacles and things that you faced. And when Gary asked you, have you ever thought about giving up? Your answer was very quick and short. No, there's not happening. That drive is not seen often. That kind of drive, that kind of passion, it's really it's something very difficult to come by these days, especially when there's a million reasons to quit. You didn't even think about it. So once again, congratulations on everything that you've done in your life, and I'm pulling for you. We are pulling for you. We'll be watching you very closely. Tell everybody where they can find you. Where are you accessible? If anybody wants to reach out, obviously, how can they can find you and your academy, brand new, opening up right now?
First of all, thanks. I just want to say thanks, Thomas. Thomas, I can't remember a single moment ever where it wasn't cool to be around Thomas. Always just a good dude. Always willing to share knowledge, and always just like he sounds. Folks, if you don't know him personally, you're honored to know him. That's the truth. So thanks for this opportunity, Gary. Nice to meet you.
You as well.
It seems like with your story at the beginning, for a second, I thought we were married to the same woman. I was going to get scared because it sounds like the same sentences that I hear
Yeah.
in my life.
We have a lot in
Why
common,
didn't
you
we put
and
it
I.
in the same spot every time?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, why don't I put it in the same spot? Because that would require being an adult, and I've avoided that.
Yes.
But
49 years I've
my
avoided
new
it.
academy.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know.
The
People are like,
academy. The academy.
yeah, that's the weirdest thing. Like, I don't feel like an adult. I feel like a grown kid. But I'm in Andersonville, so that's the northern northern neighborhood in Chicago here, about 15 minutes below Rogers Park, which is the most north neighborhood. So I live in Rogers Park, near about 5 minutes from the lake, and then I can just ride my bike 11 minutes south and on Ravenswood and Bryn Mawr at 5547 North Ravenswood, Suite 102. So when somebody types in 102, walk down the hall, and there's a nice rehab building. And then when you open up that door, it's pretty cool. Because the hallway is so inconspicuous, you have no idea what's on the other side of these doors, right? You open up that door and you're like, holy crap, there's a gym in here. It's pretty cool. Like I'm quite proud of it. We built the Thomas, you and I talked about it. I invested in, since I knew it was going to be a small space, and I love judo and wrestling and everything. So we got the foam cubes every 12 inches underneath the floor. Two friends of mine, Pat Cooney and William Goodwin. Everybody go to Spoken Cafe if you're anywhere in Lincoln Square and get his food, because if it wasn't for my buddy Will, I wouldn't have been able to build this beautiful raised floor with some little bit of spring to it for my body to absorb. So yeah, Andersonville, bendermartialarts.com, Jason Bender on Facebook, Bender Martial Arts on Instagram, and I'm pretty easy to find. Hopefully I can help you out. Even if you're not somewhere around me, I'd love for you to try out one of my Zoom classes. And if you can't do them live, I send them out. I send out the recordings all day. I have a list of like 4 or 5 people that say, just send it to me daily. And if I use it, I'll give you the money. And it's on the honor system with those folks, and they are always honest, because they can tell how much when I wake up and I go to do this Zoom class, I'm bringing it, man. If I'm telling you right now, it's hard for me to gain any weight because I'm working out all the time, and I'm a little guy already. I'm going to be honest. I'm one of those folks that it's hard to gain weight. Right 2 months after COVID, like 7-8 weeks after COVID, I stepped on the scale because I'm like, man, am I wrong? My shirts are fitting, because I wasn't sparring jiu-jitsu and judo. I wasn't riding my bike as much because I wasn't leaving the house. So there's my 3 sources of cardio gone. So all I was doing was these Zoom classes, and then I was doing them twice a day, and I gained like 7 or 8 pounds within 7 or 8 weeks. And then being in your early 40s, you're like, how did I gain 7 pounds of muscle? All I was doing was eating and doing these Zoom classes, and because they're hard, they're just body weight, no weights needed. Although if you can get a set of dumbbells, and I've only been using 8-pounders, and I just make these 8-pounders kick my butt. 'Cause I figure if I can kick my butt with 8 pounds, then a person can go grab 2 water bottles and they could kick their butt.
Nice.
So,
Jason, I'll tell you,
easy to
Gary
find. Get a
cannot.
hold of me.
I'll tell you, Gary cannot lift 8 pounds, so that it's a lost cause right there.
I've got my wife's 2-pounders, and I'll bring
They're
those to
pink
the
too.
class. They are pink. That's all right. I'm masculine enough to handle it. I can pull it off. I'll pull off the pink.
Jason,
Real man can wear pink.
listen,
That's right.
thank you for being here. What an amazing story. Congratulations
Thank
and
you.
good luck to you in the near future.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.